Hello, welcome to the Den. Hope everybody had a good week. Finally got in the Gundam that I wanted to build last week, but yeah, took a little bit longer in customs. That's okay. This is a perfect grade. There's a lot of differences between this and the one I built last week. This one is the Gundam Unicorn, which I have built the 1/100 version of this mobile suit. And it was fairly complex. This one's even more complex with a lot more parts and also a lot bigger. But I would normally show the box on here, but the box is way too big to fit on camera. So instead, this is the manual, just to kind of give you an idea. There's a lot of really nice instructions in here. And it's quite a few pages long. So I doubt I'll get through all of this on a single stream. This will probably be a multi-part stream on this one. Hi, Sydney. But, oh hey, Century. Nice. I was hoping somebody would show up from Tip. Are you one of the ones who does like the Warhammer stuff and the minis? But the perfect grades are really nice because there's a lot of really fine detail in them. And they tend to have a lot more gimmicks to them too, which is really nice. But let's get started here. Let me get to the actual Gundam here. And I'm going to move this off. Ah, okay. Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people posting their miniatures that they've been painting, and I wish I could do that. I don't have the fine motor control anymore to do miniature painting. Okay. Now let's see, what do I need first? Ah, right here. And once I do have at least this first part fully constructed, I do have the 1/100 scale same piece to do kind of a size comparison. I need a polycap. Where's my polycaps? There they are. And for those who don't know, oh yeah, I can share some of them here in a sec. Yeah, and I'll definitely post some in Tips Discord too. I've got a couple here that I can show on stream. What piece do I need? Ah, 24. There it is. Wow, I can't read tonight. And the nice thing about the Gundam models is you don't really have to paint them if you don't want to. You can make them look really nice painted. But because you have all these different runners, and this particular kit, I would go through the runners, but there are so many of them, it'd take most of the stream. And where's my in runner? There it is. And now that I've got all of those pieces for that first step, I'm gonna, real quick, since you asked, Sentry, this is actually the one that I built last Thursday on stream. It's just a 1/144 Gundam Heavy Arms. That one's unpainted and unfinished. I plan on doing some other little things, some washes and stuff to bring out some of the detail. This is one of my favorites of my 1/100s. This is actually the oh, which one is this? This is, oop. The only problem with these is because they are snapped together. They don't tend to always stay together. But this is actually the prototype of what became a different mobile suit later on, called Sasabi. Now, this particular kit, this is the Gundam Unicorn, which was part of a series. I'm putting that in wrong. That was one of the later ones, and The unicorn was a prototype, supposedly, what they call a psycho frame. And that's what this kind of colored part is the internal workings of it. Because kind of part of the storyline of the whole Gundam series is that, well, I shouldn't say the whole Gundam series, but a good chunk of it. Wow, I'm peeking my mic a little bit. There we go. Was that in space, as they lived in space, as humans lived in space more, they started developing different abilities and different things of that nature, which was kind of an interesting concept. But it led to people with other abilities. Yes, when I found that on a store shelf, because where I live, it's actually kind of difficult to get Gundam models without actually ordering them directly from Japan, which is actually what I had to do for this unicorn model. That Heavy Arms and the whole Gundam Wing series was actually one of the first series I actually ever watched. It was what introduced me to the Gundam series. So yeah, that was definitely a nostalgic one. As a matter of fact, one of the first Gundam models I ever built was the Wing Gundam. So that kit holds a lot of nostalgia for me too. Now if I could just get my hands on the one from the OVA series Endless Waltz, I'd be very happy. Yes, that is a good one. Of the most recent Gundam series, one of my favorites um, is Iron Blooded Orphans, which technically takes place outside of the um, normal Universal Century stuff, but is still really good. Century, do you have a favorite Gundam series? Only seen Gundam Wing. I would highly recommend Iron Blooded Orphans. It's a little bit different in its storytelling than most of the other Gundam series. Um, it is um, being a Japanese show. There oftentimes is a little bit of problematic stuff in it, but that's kind of to be expected. But it is a really good series and really well written. Um, they gave the creator kind of free license to play by setting it outside of the Universal Century, which is the standard Gundam timeline. So they could kind of create their own history. Okay. Oh, this one doesn't have it. Okay. Now, I know this from assembling the 1/100 version. I'm basically building the cockpit right now where the pilot sits. Which is kind of a neat little way that they kind of constructed it in this one. Because you can actually see it. Because this being a larger grade kit has the actual cockpit that actually opens just like it does in the show. Oh, and this piece, I wonder if I can zoom in on it. We shall see. Maybe. Will my camera get close enough? Possibly. I don't know if it'll focus enough. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So, there's this little nub here that they call undergating. And there's a few ways to deal with that on a model. When it's in a spot like this, the easiest way is to grab your hobby knife and just kind of trim it out. Not that it really matters too much on this as far as looks go, but fitment, it can cause an issue. Once you start getting everything put together. This piece goes on top, like so. And now we have our little pilot in his pilot seat. And now the area where he's contained. Yeah. I started building Gundams. Oh. It's been a while. Since I built my first one. But I kind of fell in love with them because of their... Oop. I missed some undergating. That would explain why that's not fitting together properly. There we go. But I started building Gundams and just kind of fell in love with how well they fit together for being a snap together kit. And just the engineering behind them is really neat. Oop. I missed a step. Which is nothing new. I do that all the time. But the nice thing is, because it is a snap together kit, if you make mistakes, you can usually fix it fairly easily. Now, I need my L runner. Where did my L runner go? There it is. And this particular kit caught my eye from the moment I first saw it, because it has a full like transformation gimmick that exposes all of this inner kind of pinkish orange color. Oh, wait. I grabbed the wrong piece. There we go. And I'm hoping to get... Oh, that's a very good question, Century. For me, oftentimes what I choose to build, it's usually based off of whether I like the design of it or not. The actual mech design, or in some cases when I'm doing car models or stuff like that, it's a matter of whether I like the design. If the design intrigues me, then I oftentimes will go for it. There we go. Or if it's a car that I absolutely love the design of and have for a long time, then I'll go for that. When I was building military models like the old warplanes and stuff like that, it usually had to do with what era it was from. I tended to prefer stuff from the World War eras. But now that I've gotten more into the sci-fi stuff, it's a lot of times just has to do with the overall design and aesthetic of it. There it is. And the Gundam series is kind of has a plethora of really well thought out, well, maybe not always thought out, but very good designs. That I don't know, there's something about the Japanese robos that I've always kind of liked over the more Western style. You look at a lot of, like, especially in old media. I remember an old movie called Robot Jocks that was basically mech fighting, arena style mech fighting, as a matter of fact. But they were very blocky, very chunky, slow machines. Whereas once you looked at stuff like the early Robotech designs, which eventually kind of got translated a little bit into Mech Warrior, even though they got sued for that one. And then into the Gundam series, which really kicked off the giant robos stuff, especially here in the US. They were much more svelte designs, more maneuverable, more humanoid in shape, and I've always kind of liked that design. Now this model is a little interesting because it has the polycaps, which are a softer, almost rubber-like material, and then they have a PC material, which I believe is like a polycarbonate almost, which is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that compares to some of the other stuff and its longevity as far as joints go. Because the polycap design and the PC design are basically the same shape. As a matter of fact, let me see if I can. Kind of hard to see there, but these two here, that's the PC, and this is the polycap, and they're pretty much exactly the same, other than material. I know Bandai likes to use the polycaps because they're a fairly durable, flexible material, so that it works really good to kind of keep joints somewhat stiff. And pliable, so it stays posable for longer. Now there are ways to fix joints if they start to kind of get loose on stuff like this. Most of the time it involves a little bit of model glue allowed to dry on a part to give it a tighter fit. But it is kind of a risk-reward type of thing. Oop. And just like last stream, I am dropping parts. Thankfully, that didn't take me very long to find. That is a danger of these kits, though, because there are some small parts. Sentry, yes. Depending on the type of plastic that they're made out of, they can degrade over time, especially if they're sitting in a spot that gets direct sunlight. Most model kits nowadays, like Bandai uses a mix of materials in their builds. Everything from polycarbonate to ABS, and those type of materials, any plastic will degrade over time. They will become brittle and weak as they're exposed just to the open air. And sunlight will make that happen usually faster. It's actually the real reason why things like carbon fiber material in cars isn't always the best idea, because carbon fiber is a photoreactive type of material and will actually break down if exposed to direct sunlight. And things like ABS, they'll hold up better to sunlight, but will eventually break down as well. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are oil-based materials in most cases. And the oil slowly dries out, basically. Why is that not fitting? Should have gone. Oh, there we go. Now I need a couple other. These. And with, like, as far as any of my Gundams that I have currently, I haven't seen too much degradation, but I do know any of these polycaps over time, because they are a softer material, if you repose them a lot, they actually will break down. The polycaps themselves will break down. What's the oof for, Sam? There's one of those built. Now to do that all over again. Yeah, unfortunately it does. It's just one of those things that happens with these. It's why for a lot of them, I'm actually surprised to see polycaps on a 1/160th scale like this, because Bandai was trying to move away from them for their bigger kits like this. Because they could do just the same with plastic on plastic contact as they could with these, and oftentimes get a better fit. little confused now because I'm missing something. Oh, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I just didn't have one of my parts with me. Now, this kit would be even cooler if I could have gotten the other part to it, which is that of a lighting kit that goes inside of it and runs through, and it would actually light up all of this internal structure. But they were out of stock on it. Or is this supposed to go the other way? Oh. This is supposed to go the other way. How I get it. The stiffer part actually locks it onto the post. That's actually really, really smart. Ah. They could have made that just a little bit clearer, but that's okay. This is where these kits get a little worrisome. Sometimes you feel like you're going to break them. But it's oftentimes just a matter of getting them lined up just right. There we go. Well, and it's interesting because while I can't read Japanese, I do know a few people who have and can translate these instruction manuals a little bit better. But they actually call out actual sound, like automatopoeia type sound that you should listen for when you're putting these models together. Kind of an interesting little thing. And specifically calls out rotating those. Okay, cool. These are the shoulder joints, I'm sure. Where is the in runner? At the in runner, there it is. A. $22A. Do these go inside or outside? Is the question. Ah, okay, so they go inside. Oh, that's very interesting. I haven't read too many mangas. I find that kind of interesting. That they actually have to explain that. And that it's that prevalent in the culture. This instruction is not very clear. Either that or I'm just not getting it mated up. There we go. Wasn't getting it mated up. Yeah, that's very true. Sound can have a very different meaning in different cultures. Just like different words have different meanings in different cultures. No, I'm going to have to take this apart. Darn it. Because I messed up. Oh, wait. I didn't actually need to take that apart, I don't think. Nope, I am going to have to take it apart and reposition that. Here we go. Now hopefully that should go together properly. I hope. Here we go. Oh, that's going to give it a lot of posability and maneuverability. And now... Oh, wrong thing. And this one here. Ah, it's these pieces. And I plan on hopefully doing a lot more of these depending on what all I can get my hands on as far as models go. Might even do some little just kind of small scale painting streams, doing kind of some techniques for customizing a lot of these, because there are some amazing customizations out there that you can do. Helps if I put it on the right one. I have seen some amazingly impressive Gundam dioramas that guys have done. There we go. That one's in all the way. Okay. And now that's locked in, so it's not going to move around, other than what it's supposed to. I keep going for that runner. That's not the runner I need. Because I know most I'd usually probably do on these guys is probably a dark wash with some really watered down black or brown paint to really bring out some of the details that they have molded into these. Because there are a lot of details in them. I'm guessing these sit here or something like that. And plus I kind of like when they look like when they're not factory fresh, so they don't necessarily look like they're straight off the assembly floor, and they look a little more battle worn. I have in the past added intentional scratches, As a matter of fact, as an experiment, I took one of my models, one of my Gundam models specifically, and I actually used a heated needle and actually used the heated needle to actually push holes through it so that the heat would kind of melt the plastic a little bit and kind of push it in almost like a bullet impact. And then I'll do dry brushing of a silver paint around it so that it kind of adds to that kind of beat up look. If you ever do something like that with a plastic model, you have to be kind of careful. One, because heat on plastic, depending on what type it is, like ABS, ABS is a very toxic plastic when it's heated. So you want to do it typically outside or where it's fairly well ventilated, because the fumes can actually cause all kinds of problems. There we go. And the upper torso is actually starting to come together a little bit here. To the point where we're going to be adding our first piece of white plastic armor paneling. Of which this is a perfect example of undergating. If it'll focus in on it, maybe. There we go. Which is nice that they started doing this, because on the smaller models they don't do a lot of this, but they do on these bigger ones, which is nice because when you remove them, but you can either just take your nippers on these bigger pieces and cut it off and then clean it up with your hobby knife, or you can just straight up cut it off with the hobby knife, as long as you're careful with it. You don't get any exposed nub marks on the visible plastic. And now we are back to some of this internal psycho frame. These two pieces, and hopefully I'll see. We'll put one over here and one over here. Hopefully I'll remember and not get them confused. There are still other pieces I need from that one. I think. Yes. The manual makes those look smaller than they are. Oh, that's why, because it shows it like this in the manual, and it's actually a pretty long piece. Somewhat, anyways. Oh, this is part of the chest piece, is what this is. But I need another piece. From a different runner. Oh, from this runner. Oh, it's a little piece. There we go. That does not seem like a good fit. Maybe to lock it in once I get it onto the actual piece. That one goes on this one, because it lines up on those slots. Okay. There we go. Clean that up a little bit. Need the other one of those. Okay, that one seems to fit a little bit better. Maybe some slight inconsistencies in the mold, which happens. I need to clean that up a little bit more. It's not quite fitting in. Got some slight inconsistencies, I think, or I'm just not getting it lined up very well. Ah, there we go. That popped in. Not sure if you guys heard that little pop as I pushed it in. They In the manual, they usually would be listed as a paching sound. And this one goes on this part here. There's a slot that it fits into. Right on this upper portion. Maybe if I pop this out, it'll fit easier. Yep, there we go. And there will probably be other parts on this that will lock everything into place fully, I'm sure. Oh, I forgot pieces, but I think I can fit them on without having to take everything apart again. I need my C runner. Is it those guys? No. Oh, there they are. Now, you might get a little bit of a glimpse here as I put this torso together of what some of the transformation is on this guy. Because it's actually kind of an interesting setup. Can I get this on there? Yes, I can. However, this one has a little bit of extra that I need to clean up on it. Go. These flip out of the way. Exposing that under frame. This also extends out, exposing part of it through here. Might be able to see that a little bit better actually on the side here. Which also, that also gives the torso a little bit of pivot. For posability. Now we've got a little more of this inner frame to do here. Which I believe are these little, they're actually guns, I think, that pop up. At least according to the lore, I believe they're guns that pop up from out of the chest when it goes into its other modes. like this. Like this. Here we go. There we go. There, it went all the way in. A little bit to clean up off of here. Okay. And then there are some small parts that go on here. Some small white armor pieces. Oop. A little bit of a nub that needs to be cleaned up there. Yes. This goes on the bottom. The other piece should go on the top. There we go. This fits over top like that. There we go. Now to do that all over again. Yep. So, like so. Now, this particular model is a 1/60th scale, what they call their perfect grade. So called because they can fit the most detail in it and give it the most amount of realism that they possibly can. That one came off the sprue fairly cleanly. Now these should be side pieces. 7 and 8, right? Yep. And the best proportions, the most amount of posability and detail. For instance, there's a few of them, like I believe they're perfect grade RX 78-2, the original Gundam, that has like these, kind of like what you would consider access ports to build or to work on the Gundam, and a lot of interesting little details in those that just beg to be painted. because there's an amazing amount of detail in these models. And sometimes it's detail that you will never actually even see, but you know it's there. I wonder if this is one of those ones that's going to be easier to do this way. Yep, they are going to be easier to do this way. There we go. Now, if you are ever interested in getting some of these models, you can fairly easily why is that not? That's not right. I need, is it? Is that right? That's got to be right. You can have them imported. I had this one, I purchased this one from a company out of Japan by the name of HobbyLink Japan. Highly recommend them if you want to get models like this. Just be aware that your shipping is going to be pretty pricey. Depending on what shipping methods you choose to do. For instance, this one, this particular kit for the shipping cost me probably pretty close to the same price as the kit, which these perfect grades are not cheap by any means. Most of the time, just for the kit, you're going to be looking at about $180, right in around 18,000 yen. But I think they're well worth it. Because they make great display pieces. And if you can afford to get the lighting kits for them, that makes them even neater. For instance, I'll post that in Tips Discord under the IRL share at some point. My 1/60th scale Gundam Exia that has the full lighting kit in it. Because that was that wasn't the only way they sold it, but getting it with the lighting kit included was the only way to buy it with the lighting kit. And it's quite the lighting kit because you have to route LEDs all the way through the entire kit and get it all lined up and the wires through it. It took me quite a bit to get through that one. Something is not quite lining up here. What is it? Yeah, let's take a look at the other side and see if we can get it to fit. Yep, there we go. That side went on. Let's see what's going on with this side and why it's not quite popping in. Might just need to push it a little bit more. There we go. There we go. I just wasn't being rough enough with it. Okay. Next, we've got some more chest armor pieces. Yes, very much an enthusiast level investment. I have been lucky enough to pick up 3 total perfect grades. You can get them on places like Amazon as well. But with the way prices are right now, this same kit that I picked up for probably about $200 or so, having it imported directly from Japan, was around just shy of $400 on Amazon. And here, we're getting close to the end. Yeah, it's pricey. That's why I only do the perfect grades every once in a while. Usually I will pick them up sometimes around tax return time. Because that's about the only time I can afford to get them. But I really like these models, and I think they're fun to put together. And ones like this, they're not ones that you're just going to sit down and, take an hour or 2 or 3 to build. They're going to take a little bit to actually get all together. Because granted, I've been sitting here talking, doing this, but it's almost been an hour and a half, and still haven't completed the chest. Your basic 1/144s, it took me pretty much an entire 3-hour stream to build the entire thing, pretty much. Whereas these will probably be a multi-stream thing. There it is. But kind of some of the fun things about these is the fact that they are posable completely. You can mimic iconic poses from the TV shows if you want to. or dynamic poses. And you can go around, and it's unlike a statue, because there's some really, really pricey, very nice, like, statues of various superheroes or video game characters that are really neat. And I would love to have some of them. Like some of the stuff from Hot Toys, or some of those model makers. But they're pricey. And for the most part, a lot of them, if they're statues, are completely static. Now, Hot Toys does do a lot of fully posable figures, and they're incredibly impressive. Partially because they're not just your basic toy. They are fully, stitched and sewn costumes and clothing and a lot of that kind of stuff. But which puts kind of a premium price tag on them. Now, at least where I'm at here in the United States, I can get the smaller Gundam models for a fairly decent price at places like Target. Used to be able to get them at some other stores, but certain stores that used to carry them have since gone out of business. As things have happened. If I could, I would love to set up and start an actual model shop where I live, carrying a lot of the different models out there, like the Gundam models. Some of the Japanese car models are extremely impressive. Tamiya makes some really, really nice automotive replicas that are highly, highly detailed. There have been Target has actually pushed really hard to try and get more of that type of stuff. Most of the Targets, it's really hard to find in their store, because it's not where, like, most of their other things of that nature are. They're actually tucked back in their electronics department by all of their Nindroids and all of, like, the collectible stuff. Now, you can order Gundam, a lot of the kits on Target's website as well as pick up a lot of the smaller ones in store. I don't know what their prices are on some of the bigger ones. I didn't really look too much. But I will probably be, every once in a while, stopping by Target or placing an order online for some of the smaller ones. The 1/144s and the 1/100 scales. to do on stream, just because I enjoy sitting here building and talking to you guys. So and just kind of seeing what we can learn from each other, from either shared experiences or not so shared experiences. What other part do I need for this? Oh, there it is. Now, I don't know how many people would be familiar with this company, but there was an entertainment store. I don't know how far spread they were in the United States, but the company Hastings, they used to carry a lot of the Gundam stuff because they carried, most anything that was video game, movie, or so on. Anything that was related to any of that, they carried. But that again is another company, sadly, that has gone under. All right, Sentry. Yep. You have a good night. And there's that heavy arms again. And like I said, I'll be posting some pictures hopefully here once I can get some taken of some more of my Gundams that I've built, as well as potentially some of my other models that I've been working on. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks for stopping by. You're welcome, Sentry. Sentry, thank you for the follow. I don't know if you're still on, but thank you. Oh, it's not having me put that on yet. Okay. What part do I need? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong part sheet. That's why. Okay. Ah, there it is. Oh, this is the back pieces. I know what this is. I know what this is now. This is the back pieces. This is actually the piece that goes on the back. It's actually used to lock it in place in its different extension points. And now I need this piece, the front piece. We're getting close to the end. I figure once we finish the chest up, we'll take a quick break because that should be probably around getting close to 9 roundabouts. And we'll take a quick break once I get this all finished and we see and do a comparison between the parts, between a 1/100 scale and a 1/60th scale. And we'll see how far we can get on some of the other parts by the end of the night, around 10 or so. This is the cockpit cover. This will actually sit right on top of here. But I need the inner frame piece first, which is going to be on here. And that should be 12 and 4. Yeah, right here. Oh wow, that's a thick sprue. Okay. Gotta be careful on some of those thick sprues or else you may accidentally cut off something you're not supposed to. And I have done that before and it's not fun to deal with when it happens. Because then things don't quite work the way you need them to. And I don't have the time to wait because Bandai, if you're missing a sprue, a set of sprues, or something's broken on those sprues, you can request a replacement sprue sheet. However, that takes time. And this model already sat in customs for like 4 days after it came stateside. So, rather not have to wait any longer on more. That goes in there. There we go. Okay. Now, the next steps I don't really need to do because that is all of the wiring for the LED kit. I wish I had that, but I don't, sadly. Now, what's next? Okay. So now that we've got all of this, that piece goes in there. So do those move? Okay. Yeah, those move slightly. They don't move a lot, but they move slightly. Oh, and I see something. So we'll need to pull. Ooh. Pop that side out. Pop this side out. Because that is the only way that these pieces are going to fit in here properly. Maybe. Come on. There we go. Okay. So now I know how that fits. This piece goes on the back like so. Up here. There we go. Like that. And then this piece goes on. Yeah, come on. Go together. There we go. Like that. This closes up over top of it. Like so. This piece just clips into there because they made it fairly easy to pop it apart for if you ever got the LED kit, so that you can actually fairly easily take things apart and add the LEDs later. But, so that is the torso done. They also made it so that this, there we go, has a little bit extra motion here, but this is also a way to access everything if you need to take it apart to add the LEDs. But now that this is all together, and I see some stuff that I want to clean up on here, this piece right here needs to be cleaned up. But, so, 1/60th scale. It's about the size of my hand. 1/100 scale. Same mech, same mobile suit. That's quite the difference in size. And the cockpit opens, and you can see the pilot in there, barely, but you can. Oh. There is one back piece that I did not put on there yet, but that's okay, because that's an easy fix real quick, and then we will go to break. Oh, this has some undergating that I'll need to clean up. Oh, those are really close to other parts, so it's going to be easiest to use my knife. Just kind of scrape that off a little bit without taking too much material. You can actually I'm going to actually zoom in for this because there's a neat little thing you can do here for dealing with these type of undergates. It's not very, I apologize, it's not the greatest to see here, but if you take your knife, because there's a nice flat edge here and a nice flat edge all the way along this where this undergate is, you can actually just take your hobby knife, your X-Acto knife, whatever you want to call it, and just push in slowly. And you will actually very easily take that extra undergate material off without losing any of the stuff you don't want to lose. And you can just kind of clean up what little bits left there. Well, now I see why that isn't fitting properly. I missed other pieces of undergate. So that is the one drawback to streaming stuff like this, is you do tend to miss stuff like this because you're busy talking to people. But that's okay. Mistakes happen. There we go. And this will actually give you a better view of that kind of size difference between them. This one's probably what? About, let's see. Fits in a 2" by 2" square. This one, not counting the arm stubs, is sitting in a 3" by 3" square. So that's a pretty good size increase between the two. And it's barely, just barely sitting in that 3" by 3" square. But as I said, now that that's finished, we're going to go to a quick break, have a little drink, grab myself some water, I think, because I need some. Throat's getting a little dry from talking. And I will see you guys in a little bit.
Great moments are born from great opportunities. That's what you have here tonight, boys. That's what you earned here tonight. One game. If we play them 10 times, they might win 9. But not this game. Not tonight. Tonight, we escape from. Tonight, we stay with them. And we shut them down because we can.
You know I got it going on right Rockin' till the break of dawn. Ain't got no remorse for puppets or soldiers. I don't know who you're working for. Got a piece of work in store. We got whole armada stacked like I told ya. It's gonna be curtain for this room. Gonna be every type of doom. Yeah, I don't know if you're human or monster. Oh, when they step out to my grave, ain't gonna have no soul to save. It got torn apart when I joined this roster. I'm being totally for real. I'm making my appeal. I'm waiting for the cycle to break down. You know that every single day I wake up on my way to destiny and reckoning. I pray. I put aside all my rage and engage anger management. I gotta go with the flow and see the light. Tonight we fight and I die and I get up. Let's make the world go right. It's been so long I can't recall. And the greatest joke of all is I listened to that old wizard rambling. Had I known this was my fate, would've walked out of that gate. Cause I ain't a man who's about to go gambling. But you said it was for sure. Immortality on tour. The solution and the cure to my issues. Every time I take a hit, I get sent back to the pit. And I feel the steering form on my tissues. And then I go back to the hall, in the castle where I fall, that I built with blood and sweat for a century. I'm just waiting to be played, then you go right on your way. And I'm thinking about refusing you X-ray.
You think you got it really bad, my life is way more sad. This kind of genocide is a war crime.
Don't wanna hear that kind of talk. My minions going soft. I'm trapped up in a time warp and I can't see no way out. I put aside all my rage and engage anger management. I gotta go with the flow and see the light. Tonight we
Okay, back again. Let me zoom back out here real quick. There we go. Now we can see the whole thing. Okay, so finish the torso. Now, to move on to the legs. Had to get a few things ready, find some of the part sprues that I needed. Took a little bit longer than I expected it to. But now we're going to start with the feet. So there's one. And two. The nice thing is they actually tell you to build these in tandem at the same time, which is nice. Makes things a little bit easier. Oh, and there's a little bit undergating on those, so let's deal with that real quick. You know what? I feel like that's a little too far out. Let's zoom in just a hair. There we go. That's better. That way you guys can see a little bit more of what I'm doing. I cannot wait till I can afford a better camera than what I've got right now. This one's not bad, but I would like something that's a little bit higher definition. This is a quote-unquote high-definition webcam that I'm using right now, which is nice because it's one of the few webcams that I found that actually has a bayonet-style mount for a camera mount, so I can put it on an arm, so I can position it kind of wherever I want to. But it doesn't always provide the best image. Which is sad, but that's okay. I originally got it along with my mic and all my setup because I originally wasn't going to be streaming. I originally had plans of starting a model building YouTube channel, actually, and just sitting down and recording various segments of building a Gundam model. And I did that. I only did about 3 episodes though, before I ended up having to move, packed up my computer. When I got to where I was moving to, my computer decided it didn't want to work, and I had to sit there and figure out what happened to it and why it wasn't working, which was fun, I guess. And by the time I got it working again, I was not in a space where I could really do any recording. So that kind of threw that idea out the window. And so I kind of gave up on it for a while. Thought about doing something with the channel again. But then I started going and watching some of these other streamers, like Tiptoe the Tank, where Century came from. Watching Bowie from Maybe Amy B's streams, watching Amy, Gerard Khalil, the completionist, who one of the songs that played during the break, that is Anger Management, which is actually from a album that him and a couple other YouTubers made called Big Bad Bosses, Power Overwhelming, which is kind of it's a joke band made up of villains from various franchises like Bowser and Sephiroth, the One-Winged Angel, um, Ganon from the Zelda series, and Dr. Robotnik or Eggman from the Sonic series. And I love their music. They sound really good. Um, and it's just fun because the music harkens back to some of the little things about those characters. Or things that are just things that they kind of made up about those characters. And it's just a fun, good time. Speaking of, Gerard has another group that they will be doing some music with as well now, which I'm very excited to hear. The second album from Big Bad Bosses will be dropping here soon as well. And again, I'm excited about that as well. The music, the actual music from Big Bad Bosses was actually all composed by Grant Kirkhope, which I don't expect a lot of people to know, just because they're probably not into a lot of the behind the scenes stuff of video game production like some people are. But Grant Kirkhope is a BAFTA award-winning composer, best known for pretty much most things that Rare put out during the Nintendo 64 era, Banjo-Kazooie, and a lot of those games, as well as his most recent work on Shovel Knight. He composed all of the music for Shovel Knight. There is actually on the first Big Bad Bosses album, there is actually a rap that is performed by Grant Kirkhope. That is very, very impressive. And quite funny. And it's music that that is allowed to be used for streaming purposes. As a matter of fact, Gerard, on one of his streams, we asked him about it, and he specifically said that it can be used for streams. You won't get a DMCA, and if you ever do get a DMCA from someone about that music, to contact him, because it wouldn't have been him. Which is nice, because sometimes, it's nice to have music like, playing before you actually start your stream, so that, as people trickle into your streams, they kind of have a nice little thing to listen to while they're waiting for you, as well as on your breaks or when you end your stream. It's really nice to be able to have that. And thankfully, there's a fair amount out there now. Gerard with his Big Bad Bosses stuff. I'm pretty sure that most likely his new one will be similar and will have similar rights. Game Chop and most of their music, which is great because one of my favorite little chiptune lo-fi artist that does a lot of video game covers, DJ Cutman, is part of Game Chop. And he does a lot of that kind of music. And some really, really good covers of them. But as I was saying, seeing some of these other streamers out there that have been going just made me kind of want to start streaming something that I enjoy. And I started doing a little bit of video game streaming recently, and that's been okay. But my ultimate goal was to start trying to do stuff that was a little different, maybe possibly more entertaining for some people, and something I can share knowledge and information on. Because while I love gaming and I enjoy gaming a lot and have been gaming for a long time, model building is something that I enjoy, and while a lot of the tips and tricks that I have for a lot of this stuff have been shared in the past by other people, one of my biggest mentors for model making, costuming, cosplay, and a lot of that stuff is Bill and Britt over at Punished Props, which they used to stream. They have not been streaming at all lately, but they've given me a lot of really good tricks for doing paint and filling in holes and gaps and stuff. And I just enjoy them immensely. As a matter of fact, I've got a bunch of, well, not a bunch, but several 3D files that Bill has produced and sold for 3D printing, among which one I've got partially printed and might be something that I'll at least do partial completion at some point on stream, and that is a replica, I cannot talk tonight apparently either, of Vash the Stampede from the series Trigun, his revolver. I have 3D files of Link's Master Sword. I believe it's the version from Breath of the Wild that I hope to eventually do. That probably will not be on a stream unless I can figure out a way to show a larger chunk of my workspace, because that is a big model. I could potentially do part by part on assembly, but that is going to be a very difficult thing to show on stream. Because it is a multi-part print. I believe there is at least 5 or 6 parts for the blade, 3 parts for the handle, plus I have files for the entire scabbard as well. I would also like to eventually purchase some kits from some other creators out there that I know of, such as Blind Squirrel Productions, as well as a few others, to assemble on stream, show some little tips and tricks and techniques for things like resin kits and resin builds. I think that would be fun. Lost my train of thought. Got derailed. Because while I enjoy seeing, I enjoy building these mass-produced kits, like what Tamiya makes and what Bandai makes. But I really want to showcase some of the other talent that's out there. Some of the really, really talented makers and designers out there, because there really are some extremely talented ones out there. If you just do a search on Etsy, you will find so many creators. Now, that being said, there are some fakes out there as well that try to profit on other people's work, which is not okay. But sadly, it happens. Because not everyone out there is as honest as others. There is an order of operations here. I'm messing up. Okay, there we go. And there we go. I would like to find ways to support some of those talented makers, and I think showcasing some of their stuff would be an interesting and fun way to do it. And just show some of the stuff that's out there and what you can find, and and the things that you can do even if you don't have necessarily the skills to obtain the item that you potentially want. And that's okay. Or, there's a lot of people out there that can help you build the tools or the skills to do the things that you want to do. I'm getting ahead of myself again. And there's some really, really good maker communities out there too to look at. I mentioned Bill and Britt, Bill Duran, and Brittany, his wife, are amazing makers. They use a lot of foam to make their stuff. And they're great resources to find information for making, crafting, painting, just little projects too. And I mean, if anybody out there is a maker who has stuff that they sell, whether that's files for printing or, you know, unfinished kits that they sell, finished kits, finished products, you know, I'd be interested to know, because that is something I really want to kind of focus on. Like I said, is kind of showing off some of the other talent that's out there. Some of those really skilled makers, artisans that do a lot of that stuff. Because I will be the first one to admit, I love 3D printing and I love having a 3D printer, but I am not skilled enough at it yet to make things that I want, to design it in a program. But I know that there are lots of other people out there who are amazing at it. And I want to showcase those makers and what they do. So that is definitely a plan for the future, is to build a lot of that type of stuff up. To do more than just a lot of these out of the box kits. Now let's not do what I did last time and forget to put it through here. So that would be bad. Well, frustrating. Not bad. Plus I would have done the exact same thing twice. There we go. And probably not gonna get through much more of this tonight, but that's okay. We'll have plenty for next stream. Should be able to get through at least the feet, though. Hopefully. There's the part I need. Considering the kit that I built last week, the heavy arms, is probably as many pieces as just this chest piece, as just this torso piece. So, pretty big difference in scale there. And once again, I'm dropping pieces. Oh. I got ahead of myself again. Once again, nothing new there. It happens. So let's see if I can do this without disassembling the whole thing. Might be able to, possibly. It's just that much shy of being able to fit where it needs to go. Well, let's see. See if I can dig myself out of the hole I put myself in here. Maybe if I separate this, I might be able to. Possibly. And this is where it would be very handy to have a parts separator, but I don't. However, oftentimes, just gentle and patient. Keyword patient, which can be difficult. And you just gently work things. Gently and carefully. You can get these things separated. Takes a little bit. Nope, that's not going to work the way I wanted it to. That's okay. I will find a different way to do it. Hopefully. Might just have to put a little extra pressure on it. Possibly. Where there's a will, there is a way. Oh. There we go. It took a little bit, but I got it. And I'm going to have to do that again. Because as usual, I wasn't paying attention to the instructions. I mean, it could be worse. I could not have instructions at all. Which could be fun in its own right. That's not what I wanted. Go back on. There we go. Okay. So I can get in here and do what I did with the last one. Maybe. Possibly, I hope. Losing parts. Not what I wanted to do. There we go. There we go. And recovered. Oh, see, now that should be easy to fix. And again, there's another piece that I missed because I wasn't paying attention. So we'll see. We'll see if it's going to be as difficult to fix as the last one was. It shouldn't be. Hopefully. It is going to take another little bit of ingenuity, potentially. Or I may just have to try and pop that whole thing out. Back out from where, there we go. Got it. And that is the nice thing about snap together kits. Because you can fix little problems like that if you can get them separated. Now I have to find a piece that I dropped. So give me just a minute. Hey, there we go. That did not take as long as I thought it would, but it was not as quick as I would have liked it to be. But that's okay. Okay, now we need to get this one popped back up. Get it popped out of there. So that I can get this back into position. There we go. Back together. Okay. Feet are fixed. That's better. Okay. Let's get this put back together the way it needs to be. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably get the feet finished before the end of the stream. And then it'll probably be about it, honestly. For tonight, anyways. I need... Oh, nope. Some of the psycho frame pieces. Which is by far one of the most interesting parts of this particular kit. All these clear ABS parts. There we go. Just got to pay attention to the instructions. That's all. What I find really interesting is how much of this psycho frame pieces they have compared to how much actually shows through when it transforms into its destroy mode. Because not a lot of it actually shows through. They've done a lot of detail work on it. That doesn't necessarily all have to be there, but they did anyways. Kinetic 31, thank you for the follow. Now these are all white outer armor pieces, which means there's probably a bunch of undergate that I'll have to deal with for these to fit properly. Yep. Yep. As I've kind of shown, there's a lot of different ways to really deal with that undergating. To really clean it up. And I do appreciate Bandai and their engineers doing as much undergate as they do on these bigger models, because it really does make for a much cleaner finished kit. Viral, thank you for the follow. Viral is one of the mods over at Tip's channel. It's okay, Viral. It happens. Okay, that one's all cleaned up for the most part. And at the rate I'm going, and the amount of time I usually stream, this will probably take me at least 2 or 3 more streams, I'm guessing. There are a couple Gunpla channels. One of the streamers that I actually follow that you may want to take a look at is actually Bad Gunpla TV. He's the one who kind of gave me the idea to actually start streaming Gundam builds. Because I can do gameplay and I'll play games. I'm not very good at them, especially compared to some of the other people I watch. But this model building and that kind of stuff is more my kind of passion and what I like to do. So that's what I plan on trying to do the most on my channel when I can. Sadly, my favorite snap together kits, Gundams, can be a little more difficult to come across in the States. They have gotten exorbitantly expensive due to importation costs, which makes me sad. But they also... So, I've... Their name is Bad Gunpla. Yep, on Twitch. It's either Bad Gunpla or Bad Gunpla TV. I don't remember which one. But you should be able to find it just by searching for Bad Gunpla. One of the things he kind of does a lot of times, though, is he does builds where the chat tells him how to build. He doesn't have the instruction book on him. And he basically relies on his chat to tell him what parts go to what. Which can be kind of interesting and a little bit chaotic. But Gunpla is not the only thing I plan on doing here. I was kind of saying a little bit ago, I plan on trying to showcase some like resin kits and stuff from some of the various makers I know out there who do a lot of resin cast prop replicas and video game replicas. And doing some kind of assembly and building of those on the channel as well. Because I have some replicas that I can do just through my 3D printer and stuff. But that takes a lot of time to print. And they don't always go as well as you want them to, as far as the actual printing process, which can be frustrating. I have been working on a single print, or a single set of prints for probably about 4 months. Freedom Gundam. Do you know, Kinetic, which version it was? Because they've actually done a few different versions of the Freedom Gundam. Was it one of the smaller kits? The Freedom Gundam, though, that is a really fun kit, though. It's an interesting design. Very. Okay, so that was probably what they call a 1/144 scale. It's probably their high grade, I think is what they call it. That kit has some interesting design cues. It is one of the kits that I really like because it kind of looks like it has wings to a certain extent. Gundam Seed, yep. Yeah, the Strike Freedom from Gundam Seed, yep. Here, as I get some good pictures of them, in the Discord, on Tips Discord, I will be hopefully posting up some pictures of some of the Gundams that I've got sitting around on display in my apartment. One of the other guys that was here earlier from Tips Discord, I had this on hand to show. This is the one I built actually last Thursday on stream, which is the original heavy arms from the Wing Gundam series. But this one's like what I'm building tonight. These are some of my favorites. They're also the most expensive, so they are a very every so often type of build, because this kit that I'm building right now is the Gundam Unicorn from the series of the same name, or Gundam UC. And this kit runs about $180. And because I couldn't find anybody really who carried it in the States, I also had to pay to have it imported here directly from Japan, which was about another $100 or so. But I will finish up this little bit here because there's not a lot of time left in my stream time here. But I will show you some of the stuff that's kind of interesting about what I've got built so far on this kit. Because this kit, the Unicorn, has some interesting little gimmicks on it. Because it actually has a little bit of a so some of them I will repaint. This particular one I won't, just because this size, the scale that I'm doing here is a 1/60th scale, and the color separation is really, really good on these, so they really don't need a lot of paint. The most I might do is go over it with some watered down black paint to get into some of this, if I get it to focus, some of this finer detail in here on the panel lines. Now, some of my smaller ones, I tend to do repaints and custom paints on those, like changing them up from like a white to a black, or just various color combinations that I find interesting or that I think will fit. But since we're getting close to the end of my stream time here, I'm going to run through real quick, and I'm already seeing stuff that I missed on this that I'll need to clean up here before I finalize the assembly. But the Gundam Unicorn has some interesting little transformations because it's in the series. It's what they call a psycho frame Gundam, which means it has this inner frame called a psycho frame that basically is supposedly supposed to amplify the pilot's psychic abilities and make them more effective in combat. But that lends to some interesting little transformation gimmicks, and every single part of this Gundam will have that. If I can get it to actually do it. There we go. Oh, come on. And I will have to go searching for a part. That's okay. There we go. And so all of these panels kind of open up to reveal that psycho frame when it goes into that mode, what's called destroy mode. And there's panels all over the entire body that do that. So it's a pretty complex model with a lot of moving parts. It's one of the things about Bandai's models that I find absolutely amazing is the amount of engineering that goes into them to build these kits into what they are. And I have, so to give you an idea of at least somewhat, I will have to find that part later. Come on. I will. Just to give you an idea, so I was doing kind of a little bit of a size comparison before. He's missing his arms because they're over off to the side, but this is a 1/100 scale. So that's my hand. That is just the chest, the upper torso of the 1/60th scale. Just to kind of give you a size comparison. Yeah, they're pretty good size. I have two other 1/60th scale Gundams. One is the Astray Red Frame, which Kinetic you might be somewhat familiar with. And I also have the 1/60th scale Gundam Exia. And the Exia was a very complicated kit to put together because it actually came with a full lighting kit. So it lights up, the eyes light up, the chest reactor lights up, various spots across the body light up. This one, the Unicorn, you can get a lighting kit for. Sadly, they were out of stock, so I couldn't get the lighting kit for it, which made me a little sad because it would have been really nice to have it be able to light up, because where it lights up for the main part is where all of that psycho frame is. Which also makes the build a little more complicated because then you have to route LEDs and LED wires throughout the entire body. But it makes for an impressive display. The nice thing is this one and the Exia both come with big display stands for them that will actually help support them. The other one that I have, the red frame, the Astray, it does not have a display stand, so it's a little harder to display anywhere. It does have a lighting gimmick, though, which a lot of the older Perfect grades did, which was a small LED set that light up the eyes. But they run on button cell batteries, and I don't know where any of my button cell batteries are for it. So but I will be continuing to build this until it's done. You know, Kinetic, I highly recommend it. I actually started getting into it a long time ago. And I started because, well, it was one of the few things that I could do to just kind of separate myself out. Because I suffer from, well, I suffer from a lot of things. I suffer from depression, from, I have OCD, and I suffer from obsessive, or not obsessive thoughts, of course I do, because I'm OCD, but from intrusive thoughts. And doing stuff like Gunpla, and any model building, honestly, cars, military planes, military boats, motorcycles. I've done a whole bunch of different types of models, and I find that when I'm doing them, it makes it a lot easier for me to get out of my head and step away from those thoughts that my brain, because of those intrusive thoughts and my depression, I can kind of, it helps me get away from those thoughts and be able to refocus. And so I find it a great way to spend time and kind of deal with a lot of that stuff. Is one of the, probably the biggest reason I got into it, and I still love it. It's because the Gunplas especially, Bandai has put so much engineering into these that, yeah, it's therapeutic. Yep. I used to tend to call it mechanical therapy. That, and the other thing I used to do similar that helped a lot was I used to work on cars a lot. But the other thing that I found really impressive and has kept me into Gunpla specifically is just the amount of detail and engineering that goes into Bandai's kits. Because if you think about it, this is a kit that goes together completely, snapped together. There is no glue. Or it doesn't require glue. And you can use glue for certain things if you need to, if you have parts that like to pop off all the time. I've done that before. But it does not require glue to put together. And yet, when you're done, you have this fully posable, almost like an action figure that you built. And even on like this size, that was the other gimmick I didn't really show off, is this is the actual, so when it comes to the actual Gundam, that is actually the cockpit access. And there is a little, it's hard to see, but there actually is a little pilot figure in there. So, and if you can get them, kinetic, if you're stateside in the US, Target actually carries a lot of the smaller kits for fairly decent prices, anywhere from about 13 to about $22 for some of the smaller kits. I don't know what they want for some of the bigger kits, but they do. There are a few places in the US you can get them without having to have them imported. It's just this one I ended up having imported because most places didn't have it, or if they did, they wanted about, well, about $150 more than what it actually cost me to buy it from Hobby Link Japan and have it sent to the US. But, you know, it's getting late, unfortunately, at least where I'm at. And sadly, I have to work in the morning. So that is going to be it for today's stream. I will be continuing this build on Thursday. Oh, that's too bad. There are a lot of connections, though. As a matter of fact, for instance, Hobby Link Japan, they partner with a lot of other model companies. And Hobby Link Japan is an official Bandai supplier. So they may have some partners in your area that potentially may have them. But sadly, it is late and I have work in the morning, so I'm going to call it a night. I don't know. I doubt anybody is live right now. Oh, Jesse Cox is live, but well, it looks like he's doing some Elden Ring. So we may raid him. But I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Take care of yourselves. Be kind. Because you never know what someone has been going through or why they're in whatever state of mind they're in. And you never know if what you say could be the tipping point. Kinetic, thank you for joining me. I really enjoy being able to talk to everybody in chat. Viral, if you're still out there, thank you for stopping by. Good night, Sydney. I am sorry that you've been having so much internet trouble. I hope you guys stop back by again on Thursday as I continue this build and talk a little bit more, because I enjoy talking to you guys. It's my favorite part of anything that I do on stream, as well as sharing any knowledge that I have on any particular item. So have a wonderful night. I think we're going to hop over here, and yep, he's still going pretty strong, so I'm going to... We're going to raid Jesse. He hasn't been as talkative to his chat as much, but he's got an odd little build going on Elden Ring that I find kind of funny. It's actually a return of a previous character that he's done on other games. It is a joke character to a certain extent, at least name-wise. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Say hi. And have a wonderful night.